What a night for the San Francisco 49ers. Faithful. You could just feel the energy through the screen, the kind of game that reminds you what this team is made of. No Nick Bosa. No Fred Warner. Injuries all over the offense. Everyone wondering how they'd handle a high-powered Falcons team fresh off one of their biggest wins in years. And yet, when the lights came on, the Niners didn't flinch. They stepped on that field like a group that still believes, no matter who's missing, no matter what the odds say. From the very first drive, you could sense something different about this defense. They played like a unit that refused to be defined by injuries or missing stars. Bryce Huff, man, this dude was a monster out there. 2 sacks officially, maybe even 3 depending on who's counting, but the stat sheet doesn't even do him justice. He was living in Michael Penix's backfield all night long. You could see him using that burst off the edge, the rip move, the bend, pure chaos for that Falcons offensive line. Every snap, it felt like he was 1 second away from blowing up the play. And when he finally got home, forced that fumble and set up the turnover, it was like a statement from the whole defensive front. We're still here and we're still dangerous. And you can't talk about this performance without mentioning Tatum Bethune. His first NFL start, thrown right into the fire replacing Fred Warner, and the guy played like he's been doing this for years. The instincts, the timing, the way he flowed to the football, it was impressive. You could tell he's a coach's son. The way he reads blocking schemes, how he doesn't overrun plays, how he just trusts his eyes and reacts. Robert Saleh clearly knew what he had in him because they didn't hesitate to let him blitz, to let him shoot gaps, to let him get involved everywhere. It wasn't flashy athleticism. It was pure football IQ. That's what separates good players from the ones who stick around. The run defense had been a concern without Nick Bosa and Warner, but tonight they locked it in. They held Bijan Robinson to just 40 yards on 14 carries. One of the league's best running backs, completely neutralized. And that's not easy to do, especially when you consider how explosive Atlanta's offense looked just a week ago against Buffalo. The Falcons had torched the Bills, moving the ball at will, but against San Francisco, it was like they were running into a brick wall. The Niners tackled clean, stayed disciplined in their gaps, and didn't allow those back-breaking chunk plays that had been killing them earlier this season. Every level of the defense showed up. Darrell Luter Jr., stepping in for Renardo Green, had tight coverage all game. Chase Lucas came in clutch on that 4th down in the 4th quarter, reading the out route perfectly and breaking up the pass to Drake London. That play changed everything. Atlanta could have tied it right there, maybe even stolen momentum back, but Lucas shut it down cold. It was the kind of instinctive, confident play that comes from preparation. You could see in his eyes right before the snap. He knew where the ball was going. Robert Saleh deserves a ton of credit for how this defense has adjusted. The pass rush brought consistent heat, even without their stars. The linebackers filled lanes. The secondary didn't bite on the Falcons' misdirection and double moves. And most importantly, they played connected. Everyone trusted the man next to them. You could feel that chemistry, the communication, the confidence, and that's coaching right there. Saleh had them locked in from start to finish. Now, offensively, this was the night the Niners desperately needed. For weeks, the talk had been about the lack of a run game. The stats were ugly, worst in the league in yards per carry, near the bottom in total rushing yards per game. And for a Kyle Shanahan offense, that just doesn't make sense. But tonight, they flipped the script. The offensive line, which had been bullied for most of the year, finally stood tall. They won at the point of attack, created movement inside, and gave Christian McCaffrey some breathing room. You could almost hear the sigh of relief from McCaffrey every time he hit a hole that actually existed. 24 carries, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns. His best game since that magical 2023 season. But it wasn't just about the numbers. It was the way he ran, decisive, explosive, confident. That burst was back. Those cuts were sharper. And when he needed to lower the shoulder and finish runs, he did. You could tell he was feeding off the energy of that offensive line, finally doing its job. And let's talk about George Kittle. He didn't catch a pass, but man, his impact as a blocker was massive. Every big McCaffrey run seemed to have Kittle sealing an edge or driving a defender 10 yards off the ball. That's vintage Kittle football. Selfless, physical, relentless. You look at what this offense became when he returned to the lineup. And it's no coincidence the run game suddenly looked like the old Niners ground attack. Jones, stepping in for Brock Purdy, continues to impress. He's now 4-1 as a starter, and what stands out is how composed he is. He doesn't try to do too much. He lets Shanahan's system work for him, makes the right reads, takes what the defense gives, and when he needs to make a throw, he makes it. That 3rd and 13 late in the fourth quarter was the perfect example. The Niners are up by just 3. The Falcons are hanging around, and one mistake there could have changed the outcome. Jones drops back, sees the linebacker bite inside, spots McCaffrey breaking free up the numbers, and delivers a perfect ball for 17 yards. That play iced it. You could just feel Atlanta deflate after that. 2 plays later, McCaffrey punches it in for his second touchdown of the night, and that was all she wrote. The drive was textbook Shanahan football, 11 plays, 64 yards, over 5 minutes off the clock. It was the kind of sequence that shows how balance can control a game. When the run game's working, the play action opens up, the short game becomes lethal, and defenses just start guessing. That's what happened to Atlanta. What stood out the most, though, was how mentally tough this group was. Think about the emotional weight of losing 2 of your biggest leaders in Bosa and Warner. Most teams crumble under that kind of adversity. The Niners didn't. They tightened up. They trusted their depth. Guys like Bethune, Huff, Lucas, and even Matt Hennessy, who stepped in at center after Jake Brendel went down, all played their part. Hennessy, in particular, was impressive. He came in cold, and yet the interior protection looked more stable than it has all season. You start to wonder if that's the right lineup moving forward. This was one of those games that doesn't just show up in the standings. It builds belief. It tells the locker room that the system works, that the next man up mentality isn't just a cliche. It's real. The sideline energy, the communication between players and coaches, it all clicked. Kyle Shanahan and Robert Saleh coached their tails off, and it showed. The play calling, the situational awareness, the way they adjusted after halftime. This was a team playing smart, disciplined, and confident football. Every win matters in this NFC race, especially with the Rams and Buccaneers right there in the mix. But this one carried extra weight. It was about pride. It was about proving they can still compete at a high level even without 2 of their biggest names. The locker room vibe afterwards said it all. Relief, joy, belief. Fred Warner was right there on the sidelines, cheering, encouraging, still leading even when he couldn't play. That's culture. That's leadership. You can talk stats all you want, but sometimes football is just about who wants it more. And tonight, the 49ers wanted it more. They outworked, outcoached, and outplayed Atlanta from start to finish. That defense emptied the tank. The offense found its rhythm again, and the entire team reminded everyone across the league that San Francisco isn't going anywhere. Not this year, not with this kind of heart beating inside that locker room. And just when you think this Niners team has shown everything, they find another gear. The way they executed in critical moments, the mental toughness they displayed late in the game, it's exactly the kind of resilience that separates good teams from elite ones. That fourth quarter sequence was textbook San Francisco football. The Falcons had a chance to tie it, maybe even take the lead with a field goal or a risky 4th-and-1 play. Atlanta decides to go for it, sending bodies to overload one side of the field, thinking they could outmaneuver the Niners. But Chase Lucas read it perfectly, covering Drake London in the flat, breaking up the pass, forcing a turnover on downs. That single play flipped the momentum entirely and set up a game-deciding drive. It wasn't luck. It was preparation, discipline, and execution at the highest level. Kyle Shanahan deserves massive credit for how this offense has adjusted despite all the adversity. Without key players like Nick Bosa and Fred Warner, many teams would have folded under pressure. Instead, the 49ers not only stayed competitive, but dominated a team coming off a statement win against one of the league's best. Shanahan's play calling was precise, his game management flawless, and his trust in backup quarterback Jones paid off. Jones calmly led the offense, executing the game plan while allowing the running game to dictate the pace. When the Niners finally got McCaffrey rolling, everything clicked. The offensive line, often criticized for its struggles earlier in the season, stood up and created running lanes that made McCaffrey look like the player we saw in 2023. Every time he hit a crease, he exploded through it with vision and power. 24 carries, 129 yards, 2 touchdowns, but beyond the numbers, it was the efficiency, the timing, the decisiveness that told the story. George Kittle's presence, even without touching the ball in the passing game, was a game changer. His blocking on inside runs and chip blocks on edge defenders opened up the kind of gaps that made the Falcons' front look ordinary. That's veteran leadership, right there, doing the dirty work, setting the tone for the offense, and giving the team confidence that they could physically dominate the opponent. When a running game operates like this, play action becomes deadly, and Jones was able to capitalize on that balance, finding his rhythm and delivering the throws when needed. But the defense deserves equal recognition. Bryce Huff was everywhere. The way he collapsed the pocket, created pressure, and got sacks disrupted the rhythm of Atlanta's passing game. He wasn't just chasing stats. He was impacting the game in ways that don't always show up on the sheet. That forced fumble, the relentless pursuit, the ability to consistently make the quarterback uncomfortable. That's the difference between a good pass rusher and a game changer. And Tatum Bethune, stepping in for Fred Warner, proved he belongs at this level. He read plays, filled gaps, and attacked the run with a tenacity that belied his rookie status. Watching him flow sideline to sideline, diagnosing blocks, and taking proper angles, you realize the coaching staff made the right choice trusting him to lead the middle of this defense. Every player on this roster contributed to a collective effort that felt unstoppable at times. Darrell Luter Jr. played tight coverage. Curtis Robinson made key stops when Bethune rotated out, and the secondary overall was disciplined, rarely giving up big plays. Even when Atlanta tried to push the ball downfield, the Niners kept their composure. The pass rush and coverage complemented each other perfectly. Every collapse of the pocket, every well-timed blitz, every quarterback hit made Atlanta hesitate and forced errors. That kind of defense doesn't just win games, it sets the tone for the season. The fourth quarter drive highlighted the importance of balance in football. 11 plays, 64 yards, over 5 minutes off the clock. That drive wasn't flashy, it wasn't about heroics. It was about fundamentals, execution, and discipline. The offensive line created space, McCaffrey punished defenders with decisive cuts, and Jones made smart, timely throws to move the chains. Every element of the offense worked in harmony with the defense, allowing San Francisco to control the game, the clock, and ultimately, the outcome. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to 49ers Zone and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the San Francisco 49ers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. The San Francisco 49ers have reportedly pulled off a move that could send shockwaves through the NFC West. Rumors are swirling that Chris Jones, the star defensive lineman known for his game-changing presence on the field, has officially been announced as the newest member of the 49ers. While the team has yet to comment extensively on the signing, sources close to the organization suggest this acquisition is aimed at giving an immediate boost to a defensive line already lauded as one of the league's most fearsome. Speculation about Jones' impact is already dominating locker room chatter. Insiders hint that his arrival could shift the balance of power in San Francisco's front seven, providing both veteran leadership and unparalleled pass rushing ability. Analysts are quick to point out that pairing Jones with the 49ers' existing defensive stalwarts could create a nightmare scenario for opposing quarterbacks, one that might see double-digit sacks from the line alone. Fans are buzzing on social media, and not without reason. Chris Jones has long been a disruptor, capable of not only bringing pressure, but also altering offensive schemes with his mere presence. Those familiar with the team's internal strategy suggest that head coach Kyle Shanahan sees Jones as the missing piece in a defensive puzzle that has flirted with greatness, but occasionally lacked that dominant interior force. Yet, as with all major acquisitions, there's a question mark over how quickly Jones can integrate into a system that already demands precision and discipline. Training camp insiders whisper that the 49ers are confident in his ability to adapt, citing his experience and proven versatility. Still, skeptics wonder if expectations may be too high, and whether the hype around this signing could overshadow the team's broader defensive strategy. Whether this turns out to be a game-changing masterstroke or just another high-profile addition remains to be seen, but one thing is clear. The rumor mill surrounding Chris Jones' arrival in San Francisco is already heating up, and the NFL world is watching closely. If the whispers prove true, the 49ers' defensive line might just enter a new era, one defined by dominance, intimidation, and relentless pressure. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the San Francisco 49ers, make sure to subscribe to 49ers Zone and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.